Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Reddit Recon, where we read Reddit posts so you don't have to. Today we're going to look at a few posts from Our Confession. This first one's from Roanoke, Virginia. I lied to a blind neighbor and told him I moved away. Many years ago I was standing on one of my balconies when a taxi driver was obnoxiously blowing his horn out front and yelling for a blind man to walk towards my voice from his townhouse. That direction was towards traffic. My roommate and I went down and helped him to the taxi and scolded the driver for being so rude. I made the mistake of giving the blind neighbor my phone number so that I could give him a ride in the future. Then the phone calls came and never stopped, and when I gave him a ride, he would ask for various detours. I am very calculated by nature. If he had told me beforehand where he wanted to go, it would be cool, but no. We'd be driving along and he'd throw in 2 or 3 extra places on each ride, and it came to be that every day he wanted rides. And he'd even call me to remind me to give him a ride, not that I was ever late or backed out. Finally I had enough, so I gauged how blind he was. His response was that he was blind as a bat. A week or 2 later, after he said that, I told him that I had a job interview in the next city. A week after that I told him I got the job and was moving away in a month. After I moved away, it was strange as hell walking by him in silence as he stood on the sidewalk. I think the way that Roanoke, Virginia handled this was pretty damn funny. I'm not sure that I would have handled this the same way, but saying that he moved to another city just so he wouldn't have to drive this guy around anymore is kind of hilarious. Alright, let's go ahead and look at this next post from Throwaway2422. I staged a robbery to steal from the store where I work. I work for a chain of 24-hour stores. Some time ago, for obvious reasons, I don't want to say exactly how long, I was working overnights. I hated it. It made me fully nocturnal to the point that the sun actually burned my eyes when I went out during the day. I hated the store, hated my town, and hated all of my coworkers. Because of this, I was bordering on suicidal, so I would fantasize about just taking the money and leaving for good while I stocked shelves. Did this every night for months, but I knew jail would be worse, so I never did it. Well, one day I was venting to a good friend about how I was feeling, basically telling him a lengthier version of that first paragraph. I figured he would tell me I'm going crazy and that I should quit and find a new job that I don't hate so much. Instead, he and I came up with the idea to stage a robbery and take the money together. We took about 2 weeks to plan, and I even called out of one of my shifts so we can hammer out the fine details. The plan was that he would come in wearing a full face mask, long sleeves, and gloves so that you couldn't tell his ethnicity on camera. I also knew that all of the cameras had dead spots, so we planned all the escape routes in such a way he couldn't really be tracked by them. We had the whole thing rehearsed and ready as if we were putting on a play. So the night finally comes, and I had him waiting until my coworker went on break so we wouldn't have an extra variable to plan around. He walks in during our deadest time of night and we start really playing up the whole thing. I'm pushing my hands up, shaking my head, all of that. He has me lead him to the office where he makes me empty the safe for him. Then he has me empty the registers for him on his way out. I give him a few minutes head start while I pretend to be rattled and catch my breath. Pretend I can't stop shaking enough to dial 911. And finally alert my coworker that we were robbed and I was too freaked out to do it myself. The cops show up and take my statement. I told them that he spoke with an accent that he did not. I fed them a lot of false information to take any suspicion away from my friend. My coworker saw nothing from the break room, so he couldn't give any info himself. It's corporate policy to give robbers whatever they want, so I got in no trouble at all. As a matter of fact, they paid me a bonus for handling it so well. They also took me off of overnight shifts. Later, I told them I wasn't comfortable here anymore, so I put in a transfer to the town I'd always wanted to live in. That process got expedited due to the situation. I'm not confessing to get this off my chest so much as I am because I couldn't be happier I did it. My life turned around immediately, and I had never been happier since I was a kid. Used the money to finally start college. I don't want to share too many details so it can't be tracked back, but the store kept a lot of cash on hand aside from the registers themselves. It was well over $10,000, but that's as specific as I'll go. At least until the statute of limitations runs out. I'll give you this little bit of information to make up for it though. My friend said he did this as a favor for me and didn't want anything but a month of his bills paid. I did that for him, and then left an envelope with another 5 months worth of bills in his mailbox the day I left. Well, I'm not sure if Throwaway2422 really did this or if it's just an elaborate story, but if he did do this, that's pretty crazy that he got away with it. Let's look at another confession. This one is by Throwaway4939382828. When I was 15, I lied to my school and got my best friend expelled. So for the backstory, I had this friend who we will just call Chloe for the sake of this post. We had known each other since we were 4, and our moms are pretty much best friends even till this day. Chloe was always known as a bit of a problem child. She would constantly lie and get into trouble, whereas I was the complete opposite. I was pretty much a goody two-shoes, as people would say. Even though we were polar opposites, we were still best friends. When Chloe got to about 13, she went a bit off the rails and her behavior got worse. She started doing things like getting involved with drugs, underage sex, and making up lies about her parents, etc. Because of all this, her parents lost all trust in her, and so they wouldn't believe anything she had to say to them half the time. Despite all of this, she was still a good friend to me and had my back. My mom didn't like me hanging around with Chloe much anymore, understandingly, but because she is close to her mom, there was not much she could do or say. Anyways, for my confession, we were now both 15 and was in the last year of school. A lot of people were into smoking weed and was just talking about it all the time. This made me more curious and I was desperate to smoke a joint for the first time just to see what it was like. I would have asked Chloe for some, but she was off the stuff by then, and she was just trying to get better herself in general by making an effort with schoolwork and being more respectful towards her parents. I'm very shy and she was the only person I trusted and I was too embarrassed to ask anyone else, so I ended up finding some weed by myself by getting in contact with a local dealer off some silly app called Whisper. Fuck knows what I was thinking. I think back to this moment all the time and cringe at how stupid and naive I was. Not only was it dangerous to meet some random person off the internet, but I don't know why I just didn't ask Chloe for advice anyway. Long story short, I had purchased an eighth from this guy in town, and you're going to laugh at how dumb I was. I literally smoked a joint in my room while my parents were home. I was too stupid to even think about the smell, and obviously I had gotten caught. My parents came into my room and went absolutely mad. They automatically accused Chloe for giving it to me at school, and said that they're telling her mom and the school first thing in the morning. I tried to tell them where I had really got it from, but they wouldn't believe me, and thought I was trying to protect Chloe. I wish I could have shown them some sort of proof that I had met a dealer, but by then I had deleted all of the evidence, the dealer's number and messages. No matter how hard I tried to convince them, they weren't having it. They just wouldn't believe that their innocent, well-behaved daughter would know where to buy drugs from. Chloe's mom also didn't believe Chloe and sided with my parents too. As everyone thought the weed was given to me on school grounds, both of our parents had to have a meeting with the head teachers, and I was forced to tell them some bullshit story that Chloe had given me the weed in our break time. I felt so bad about doing it and knew how fucked up it was, but no one believed me, so I just gave up and went along with everyone in the end, my biggest regret. Because I'm known as a good kid who never gets into trouble by the school, and then there's Chloe with her track record. They automatically believed my parents and they permanently expelled Chloe from the school for dealing drugs with no proof or anything. They just took mine and my parents' word for it and got rid of her. Flash forward 5 years, I'm now 20 and still nobody knows the truth. I haven't told anyone what really happened and I don't know if I should. I haven't had any contact with Chloe since the incident. I was banned from hanging out with her after what happened and she got into quite a lot of trouble as she wasn't in school anymore, which I blame myself for. Her mom ended up kicking her out about a year after, and she ended up living in a hostel, but she now lives away with her boyfriend as far as I know and doesn't speak to her family. I think about this every day and I just feel so guilty and ashamed. My mom and her mom talk all the time, and I go on days out with her family and they all think highly of me. If only they knew the truth that I had lied and gotten Chloe expelled and stopped her from bettering herself and maybe developing a better relationship with her mom, they would know that I'm actually a terrible human being. This is by far the worst thing I've ever done, and I don't know if I'll ever get over the guilt and shame. This is also the first time I've confessed to this, even over the internet. I have no idea how my parents would react if I one day told them the truth, but I don't even know if they would believe me still, even as an adult. I find it very hard to believe that OP wouldn't take a stand for Chloe even though that she considered her best friend. I find it crazy that her parents didn't believe her that she did not get her drugs from Chloe. This story is just very sad, and I hope that Chloe gets her life together. Alright everyone, and thanks for watching another episode of Reddit Recon. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you later. Thanks, bye.